Welcome to this introduction to the CRiSTAL tool. This presentation gives you an overview of what CRiSTAL is, how it is structured, and how it is applied. CRiSTAL stands for Community-Based Risk Screening Tool, Adaptation and Livelihoods. It is a project planning and management tool that helps users to integrate risk reduction and climate change adaptation into their community-level work. Its target users are project planners and managers working at the local level, for example, for a community-based NGO or an international organization. CRiSTAL helps users to systematically understand how climate-related hazards affect a project area and local livelihoods, how people cope with the impacts of these hazards, which livelihood resources are most affected by hazards, and which ones are most important for coping. Based on this risk screening, users can then assess how project activities affect the access to or the availability of critical livelihood resources. And based on that, devise adjustments to any given project so in order to increase access or the availability of these critical livelihood resources. A new version of CRiSTAL is available from late 2012 onwards, and it will allow users to design new climate risk management activities as well. CRiSTAL follows a series of logically linked analytical steps. They relate both to the climate context and to the livelihood context. The information gathered regarding the climate context includes information on climate change trends, both observed and projected, current and future climate hazards that affect the project area, the impacts of these hazards, and the coping strategies that the local population uses in order to confront climate impacts. In parallel, there is an analysis of the livelihood resources, looking at what resources people need to sustain their livelihood. CRiSTAL then connects the climate context with the livelihood context, first by looking at which livelihood resources are most affected by climate hazards. On the other hand, CRiSTAL also looks at which livelihood resources are most important for the coping strategies that the local population uses to confront climate impacts. From this analysis, a list results that contains all the livelihood resources that are considered important in the climate context. This includes both those livelihood resources that are affected or heavily affected by hazards, as well as those resources that are considered important for coping. The next step starts again with this list of livelihood resources that are important in the climate context, and then looks at how an existing project affects the availability of or the access to these critical livelihood resources. Based on this evaluation, one can then make project adjustments in order to increase the availability or the access to these resources. This is meant to improve the adaptive capacity of local populations. CRiSTAL, in its current version, is an Excel-based program. A number of Excel spreadsheets allow to collect and gather all the information that is needed for the analysis, and then also help users to actually conduct the analysis throughout CRiSTAL. The new version of CRiSTAL that is available from late 2012 onwards will be presented as a desktop application that allows for more flexibility and additional options in the crystal analysis, including the option to evaluate and prioritize new climate risk management activities. The information that one needs for CRiSTAL is mainly gathered through participatory methods from the local population. Useful techniques include hazard mapping, seasonal calendars, and vulnerability matrix. CARE's Climate Vulnerability and Capacity Analysis Handbook contains field guides for a number of these techniques for community consultations, which are very useful to gather the information required for CRiSTAL. In addition to this information from communities, a limited amount of secondary literature research needs to be conducted to fill out all the steps of CRiSTAL. Once all this information is gathered, the project team can enter the information into the Excel program or the new desktop application and then conduct the analysis. There is a website for the CRiSTAL tool with the address www.iisd.org/CRiSTAL-tool, and this website contains a lot of information on the background of CRiSTAL, contains downloads and links, information on upcoming events such as trainings, and there's an experiences section which contains a list of a lot of applications of CRiSTAL that have been done in the past across the world. And it contains also a map where the location of these applications is indicated, and this map is linked to reports of these applications. There's also a contact section with updated contacts at ISD regarding any information on CRiSTAL. Thanks very much for your attention.